Today's topic, or actually tonight's topic, after work hours, take a guess. Okay, so it's whatever I have the most of in this room at the time is tonight's topic. And since you could see my desk here and what's lined up right there, tonight's topic is vacuum gauges. So there's the do-it-yourselfer, there's the small independent garage, there's large franchises, you have small franchises, body shops, mechanical shops, electrical specialty shops, and you have radiator and air conditioning specialty shops. And everybody's looking to save a buck. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a professional and you're going to take care of your customers and your technicians, I'm talking to owners. If your technicians have to rely on their tools, they have to be good tools. They have to be semi-good tools. This was an old reliable. I've had this near 30 years now. No, this one I've only had since about 92, 93. This was at the time when we were just changing over, when R12 was disappearing and R134 came in. That's when I got this one here. This was for 134. This was a desperate attempt when some of my other gauges were on other vehicles at other shops while they were on vacuum pumps for several hours, and I was down to my last pair at a shop because I often leave vacuum pumps at shops with gauges on them when they're heavily contaminated with moisture and air and they've been exposed. I'll just leave them for hours and come back later on. And my goods said I was going to another job broke, so I stopped by a tool shop. I bought this. This was Master Cool. They only last me about 2 months. That was it. And the seals started leaking. I think I had an intermittent sticking gauge on them, but the seals would leak. So they just got retired to recovering dirty, burnt out compressors. That's all those were good for. Most of these I only use for recovering dirty, burnt out systems. Way back in the day when you used to do a lot of retrofits from R12 to 134. These old brute gauges here, I use them for tank transfer for doing refrigerant recoveries and refrigerant transfer from one tank to another tank to a recovery machine. That's all my mechanical analog gauges get used to. I only use these anymore unless I'm out of gauges for the day. Batteries went dead, but I always have packs of batteries inside my car, so that rarely happens. Then I keep one set of gauges, of old analog gauges, stuffed away under a seat that maybe I'll use once in a year. But other than that, it's either these Fieldpiece old 360s, Fieldpiece 460s. This is the 480V, the SM480V. This is one of my favorites now. My other Fieldpiece 460 is going out for repair because finally, after many years, the pressure is off and I can't calibrate it back in. My Testo 557s are going in for repair because on a Sunday and I had no batteries and it was an emergency, I went to a dime store and the battery leaked over the weekend and went on to a $600 set of gauges, ruined the circuit board. So that's going in for service. But today is finding an economy gauge set for guys who don't want to invest because they're do-it-yourselfers or a small garage. And I'm going to already tell you right now, if you've seen the Harbor Freight reviews, you know their gauges fail often. They leak, they have vacuum leaks, pressure leaks, they go outside here. Getting back to gauges, let's see, what do we got here? So we got the old Yellow Jacket Brute, Yellow Jacket Brute, Yellow Jacket Brute, Yellow Jacket Brute, Yellow Jacket Brute. I used to have 13 of these, and I've been cannibalizing them and taking parts off and keeping the older ones surviving. And I'm getting down there. These are the liquid filled. Back in the days when you used to have mechanical compressors with fixed piston displacement, and sometimes you would have a vibrating gauge, the liquid inside here would steady that needle out. Not needed no more. We barely have any mechanical fixed piston compressors anymore. Those are dinosaurs of a past history. A few guys are hanging on to them on the automotive manufacturers, but they're dying. This old set, This is by Uniweld. They make, or they don't actually make them, they have Chinese sources make them, manufacture them, and they slap their label on them. And if you go into different countries or different parts of the world, you'll find this exact same gauges, but with different names on them. So it really means nothing. And they're total crap. This was like a month or two, that's all they were good, and they started leaking at the seals. One gauge started leaking, and so garbage. This old set right here, this is my first 4-port manifold that I own. My dad taught me on 4 ports. He told me only get 4 ports, and I know why now. So 4-port manifold, this was TIFF. TIFF doesn't know how to make electronics, but they could make a good set of gauges. I bought these back in about 1980. Let's see, was my son born? No. So this would be about 1986, 87. Still a good set of gauges. I'm just going to rehose them. I've rebuilt the seals a couple times. These are a good set of analog gauges. Getting back to hoses, $59, eBay, R1234YF. What do you get for $59? As you can see, you get a core removing tool for the newer cores and the older style cores. $59. It comes with a set of adapters. You see these are for the old style hoses. That's why they have a 1/4-inch thread on here for you who don't know that. Nylock. Every shop should have one. If you do AC, get Nylock. I've explained that in other videos. I'm not going to explain it in this video, but get Nylock. So for $59, you get a set of hoses. And I see we already have a quarter presser coming out here. Where'd you come from? Oh, there you go. Do this with one hand. These have cheap plastic inserts that wear out within a few cars. Looks like that's just falling out. Okay, really low quality there. So for $59, you get something like this. If you don't know what these are, valve core removing tools, get a set. These are not too good, but they work. I just wanted to try them out because they were $8 instead of $100 and some for my Master Cool set that I have. That's a whole set of different sizes. It was $130 some, $150 20 some years ago. These were only $8. So that's valve core removing tools. You finish a job, you've hooked up, you filled the car, you take your hoses off, and all of a sudden you have a leak. You see the valve core, and you've just spent a half hour or an hour doing a recovery. So that's time, and if you're a shop, time is money. Now you're losing money. And your technician, or if you are the technician yourself, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, and you pulled off your set of gauges and all of a sudden you have a stream of refrigerant or some leaks, or you just see bubbles coming up, don't worry, you do not have to lose refrigerant, and you do not have to recover the refrigerant and do it again. Stick one of these back on there. I have a video on this, so go look for the video. So you stick one of these back on here, you can isolate it, you push this down, you take out the core, you remove it, isolate it, take it out, put a new core in, slip it in, open it back up, and screw it back down, and without losing any charge, you've just replaced the valve core. Your boss will be happy, and if you're one of those guys who get bonuses or spiffs or percentile, or you're on a commission, whatever you're on, you have to make time and you're in a hurry shop, this can save your ass. $21. So we have an old set here that was for the R22, R12, R504, R134 set. $21. What do you get for $21? You get your R134 adapters. You get a set of hoses. You get an adapter up there. And it looks like the same set of hoses that are over there almost, with those same cheap inserts that leak on you. Already know this for a fact because I've been into literally thousands of automotive body shops and mechanical shops because I'm a subcontractor for them doing their AC, and they like to buy this stuff and wonder why they're calling me back in when they're have their guys using this Yellow Jacket, tried and true. This is almost $100 right here. I think this was like $90 for this set of hoses, but I can tell you for a fact this will take me through the summer usually without leaking. They usually develop leaks in here. I do some commercial stuff, so I actually pressure test with dry nitrogen up to 650 psi. So I would not trust these at 650 psi. These I do JB Weld, or not JB Weld, JB, just better. Okay, not almost even, not quite as good as the Yellow Jackets on reliability and leaks, but if you want to save about $20, these are a little bit cheaper than the Yellow Jackets. These 650 psi all day long, I have no problem on the commercial units. Same with these. I could do 650 psi with these. Well, these limit out at 600. On my Testos, I'd go to 650 because the Testos supposedly go up to 800, and I've taken them up to 6. Actually, one Testo I took to 800 on accident because I was not careful and safe, and I caused a little damage, but it still works. So we're getting down to that. So now software. These come with software. Start them up. And Bluetooth to my tablet right now, I'm reading 0 psi. So if you've seen my other videos, you know I always evacuate and store my gauges with nitrogen in them, dry nitrogen. So I'm going to zero this out and make sure it's 0 because they were stored with dry nitrogen. And now they are zeroed out. So today's test is going to use this micron gauge. This will be my reference set of gauges, and it's overdue for a rebuild. So it's time for me to change all the seals in here. I have another video on that. And I just jumped to vacuum because there is vacuum trapped inside this 3/4 inch silicone hose. So let's break that, and we'll actually put this moist, damp air into my beautiful system that I always keep dry. But just for this video, I'll do it the back half-ass way. Usually I would break that just with nitrogen, but we're going to kind of like make this all fair because I know these are brand new and they have air in them. They have air in them. They're saturated with moisture. My gauges usually are not because I keep them with dry nitrogen. So pardon the noise that's about to start, but what we're going to do is see how long and how deep of a vacuum I could pull on these using the micron meter in here. And if you don't know what a micron meter is, look it up or look at some of my other videos. This video is not about that. And we'll check this under micron meter. You'll see this go under 600 psi of pressure for a leak test. Well, actually, since this is for automotive, I'll go up to 150 or 200 psi. Let's say 200 psi. Maybe a little higher. And we'll see if they hold. So here we go. Let's see how far. Now, the micron meter will pop up in this section once it goes into a very deep vacuum. So let's turn on the power. 1, 2, 3, on. Okay, we're at 29.9 within, what was that, less than 3 seconds. Now we're in the microns. 200 and some odd microns. So we're counting down and count the seconds. We're already well below 500 microns. And the reason that is because these hoses are clean and dry. I use them every day, several vehicles a day, but I always flush them out with dry nitrogen, and I put them under a deep vacuum until they dry, and I store them with dry nitrogen in them. So we'll stop about there. It'll keep going down as I set up these other gauges. So let's break out this set right here. Okay. One-handed. My tripod is left at a shop. I used it doing a video a couple days ago, and I have had no time to go pick it back because of how many jobs I do in one day. So that's just not going to happen. A couple days I'll go back. Got a job for me to go do in a few days. I don't like the way these feel. It's not much crush to them. They'll deform really easy. These white plastic gaskets that they give you deform and they get damaged and scratched really easy. Now the one thing this set has in them that I kind of like, but it's probably not of the highest quality, see where it says wet and dry? So around that little ring inside there, if you see closely, there's a ring. And it is supposed to be kind of yellow. That's why I say this is not really high quality. It should be a slightly higher yellower color. And when it gets dry, it'll actually turn a dark green. And I use something a little more better quality than this on cars. And it's one thing, if a customer's car comes to me with a complaint and they just came from a couple shops and they say this shop did this, or I've been to 3 shops and they keep changing parts, and or it doesn't cool, say after I've been in the heat for 20-30 minutes, my car starts getting warm out the dash, and then if I shut it off for a few minutes and I turn it back on and it works. Now if it's not an electrical problem or a sensor, excessive moisture does the same thing. And when I put a moisture meter on cars, they often fail just after they came from one of those quickie guys who use the little cans, or one of those shops that use the big recovery machine and they never replace the dryer. So what we'll do here is we will seal these off so they're completely sealed. Man, these things are horrible. But for $21, what can you expect? Right now, we're just going to test whether or not, okay, we're down to 94 microns within this video. So I'm going to shut off, and I'm actually going to use this port to read this gauge. So I'll also shut off the high side hose, so we are not reading any contamination or any variance from the high side hose. I will shut off the low side hose, and as you can see, the microns are going down a little faster now, because even hoses leak a little bit. Moisture, slight air, it takes a long time. So now we're down to 75 microns because I shut, usually this will go down to 30 microns. But like I said earlier in the video, this is due for a rebuild. It's time for me to flush it out with 99% alcohol to get residues out of it and throw it on the pump overnight. That's about once a month, sometimes sooner if I get one contaminated vehicle. So I'll close down the charge tube, and you notice this is 4 ports. I could do all this work while the vacuum pump never turns off. Close this down. That's your charge port. We'll get rid of the charge hose. Actually, what I'll do is, I don't want to suck air into it since I've just got a nice vacuum, so I'll blow a little dry nitrogen through it. Turn on the nitrogen. Open it up. You hear it? Okay, now I'll shut it off. So I've just pushed dry nitrogen instead of sucking the air in. I'm in San Francisco, it's raining, it's about 98% humidity right now. So I really don't want to suck this air into my gauges. So what are we at now? we are at 65 microns. So now we're going to grab this hose set up to these gauges, and we are at the 0 point. Nice and accurate. Let's see how accurate we are. Now let's watch the micron gauge. We're at 64 microns. Now let's open it up. Boom. 29.9. Okay, it's not pulling down. And that might be due to these funky fittings. Not really, I had to really tighten them up. Still 29. Come on. These, you have to go crazy tight on these funky, cheap ass piece of garbage seals they have in there. There we go. So that is a down, thumbs down. You should never have to crank on your gauges that much. But let's watch this thing. And we are floating around 900. Maybe I need to crank on them some more. Nope. Come on. I'm putting all my force to get these things as tight as possible, which you would never do on a vehicle. Okay, let's just open that one up. Okay, so we are, what I just did was just open the low side. It wasn't open, but it looks like this might be leaking. We're pulling down to 30. Of course, theoretically you can't, but let's shut off our source of vacuum. And immediately I go down to 70 something because now I'm only pulling vacuum in my manifold where my micron meter is sensing. Only in the manifold. From vacuum to there, 68 microns. Come back here. Oh, no bueno. Hey, we're back to 0 right out of the box. Okay, $21. And it looks like we have to do a little more. Let me grab, I got all my tools back at my other shop. And in my car, what is out, down, if I don't kill myself, stab myself trying to open this thing. It's always good to have backup tools. Sorry about this, guys. And let's do this. This is not going to go one-handed very well. I'll put you there. Now, what you should never have to do, but these are eBay specials or Harbor Freight specials or Amazon, but these are on Amazon too. These are all over Amazon, but they cost more. Anytime you find something on Amazon, you could find it about 10 or 15%, sometimes even cheaper on eBay. And if it's made in China, here's a little secret. You look for the Chinese suppliers who sell it on eBay. The guys out of China. You might have to wait longer to get them, because what happens is the American rebuyers who just buy and flip because they know there's a bunch of dumb people who will just buy something because they're buying it from someone in America. The American guys will buy this for 10 bucks, 15 bucks in mass quantity. Turn around, flip it, and double and triple the price and throw it on eBay. or for a few more dollars. Then if it goes, and eBay's taking 15% or 7%, whatever it is, then they'll flip it. Somebody, guys, the same guys will be having an Amazon account, and Amazon takes another so many percent, and they'll flip the price higher because they know Amazon people trust Amazon and don't trust eBay because they heard bad stories. Same price. Now you're paying another 10 bucks for the same product. So where are we at? Let me crank down on these. This only has to be done because those really bad, poor, funky white plastic seals. So we know we are cranked down on all the seals. So now we're gonna reopen the hose. Oh, let me crank down on this one. Might as well go. Look at that, loosened up. So the white funky seals, I already knew this from years ago because I came across these guys because some tool guys tried to sell these things before. I gotta put the hose down again, or put the camera down. Unfortunately, I will see professional garages with this kind of equipment, and they're using it on your cars, Mr. Customer, if you're watching this. And if you're the technicians and your boss buys this kind of garbage for you, I really feel sorry for you. Okay, so let's try this again. I cranked the hell out of this sucker, so they're all tight. Let's open up our vacuum source. And we're doing better. I knew this was going to happen because I've played with these things at other mechanical shops, and I actually show them this. I show them how these leak. They never know. Some do-it-yourselfers or mechanical shops will tell me, oh, I know it leaks a little bit, but when I lose the vacuum, I try to recharge it really fast. So they're actually sucking air, and they know it, back into the car, but their excuse is, well, I do it really fast, and before it gets too much air back into the car, they put some gas in there. And they guess, they go by pressure, so you know they don't know what they're doing anyway. So here we go. We're down to 350 now. All these are just overly tightened to make them actually seal. We have R30. We have 339. So now we're going to cut off the vacuum source to the gauges so we can just read what the gauges do. We know what we're doing here, but we want to see if that needle goes down. And see, I just shut this off. Now we're instantly dropped down because we're only reading the manifold. We are actually holding. So now we're going to do something else. We're going to open up the manifold, and we're going to shut off the vacuum source. We're going to use the micron gauge to see if there's any leakage through the new set of gauges. So here it is. Boom. Still leaking. So I pretty well know it's not leaking through any of these seals because I have them god-awfully tight. But as you can see, it stopped at 29.9. Any mechanic would say, oh, that's fine because analog gauges can only show 29 or 30. And to your eyes, it's actually staying there, but it's actually leaking and slowly bleeding down. You could never use this for a vacuum test because you only use microns, you do not use inches, and you'd have to go away too long to actually measure anything. Let's wiggle this, and we probably have leakage inside here. could be through here. It could be through the fittings at these gauges where they have them through. I've even seen leaks through the gauges themselves. So we're still at 29.9, and I'm just playing with the gauges to see which one is the worst, if that's even it. We're still at 29.9. So these are a fail if you were trying to do a micron test to see if you had moisture contamination. This is a fail. So let's try some pressure. So now that we know we have a vacuum under here, we're going to go in the opposite direction. Let's take my high side gauge hose. Let's hook it up to our nitrogen. And I'm not going to break out for this test on this channel, since this is an experimental channel and it's not going, this is not my permanent one. I don't do any editing. I just leave everything in ad lib and do everything right off the cuff. So let me break the vacuum back on, open up the vacuum, bring it back down. Okay, we're down below 500 microns. That's all in the gauges. The valves are open. We're at below 0 there because and we're at 30 there. Now, this is 2000 psi of dry nitrogen. So I'm gonna close the vacuum off so I don't have pressure going into my vacuum pump and spray oil all over me. I'm gonna turn on the vacuum. I have it at 0 here. Let's crank it up. There it goes. This has been dropped several times, so let's not look at that. We are gonna look at this. We see 29.9 over here because I never opened up the low side. 105 psi here. So now let's open pressure to our gauges and let's watch the gauges. Boom. So we will not exceed the 250 on the low side because I don't want to ruin the gauges, because I'm probably going to donate these to somebody, give them to a student at one of the colleges who are learning air conditioning, whether it's San Francisco City College. We have a program there, an automotive program. I might give it to a student there. We have Laney College. We have Skyline College around here, who's an automotive. Laney College is a commercial HVAC and refrigeration. The students who don't have a lot of money, and even buying a set of $35 or $80 gauges are a difficult thing for them. So when I'm finished with this test, these will go to a student over there. I'll figure out how they could win them, and I'll do that by having them watch some HVAC videos and probably come back and ask them some questions and see who can answer. So let's crank this baby up and take it up to 250. I'm cranking it up here. And we're going up 230. 240. 258. Well, that's 260. We're a little over. No problem. So we'll come back here, and I'm just pegging the needle here. Oh. Okay. Now I know these are tight, so why are we losing? We are losing. We had a hose failure there, I think. So these cannot be used on commercial. Right in front of me, we've had a failure. This one right here. And I can tell you, I wrenched the hell out of that with the pliers. We're going to stop right here on this one. I'll fix the problem, donate it. So there goes that one. And Prius Chat's another place. They ask questions about air conditioning, where can they get cheap gauges, and people recommend Harbor Freight and a whole bunch of other things. So I'll change all the seals in these do some more testing, so I want to get them in at least good enough condition where I can donate them to a student. So now we're going to go over to the YF gauges and do the exact same thing. Shut my nitrogen off, it's off. Shut my nitrogen, my pressure for my nitrogen off. Let's kill my supply for my vacuum and pressure out of my manifold. And we will leave this hooked up, but we will re-evacuate. Now we're down to 96 microns because we're getting ready for the next test. I will disconnect this, and that is really tight. The white seals, garbage. They're all flared out. And these kind of seals get damaged really easy by any debris, little pieces of dirt, sand. When you're doing one recovery off a burned out compressor with metal debris, and you hook it up to the service fittings and they have little chunks of metal from the burnt out compressor, and they get on that fitting, and one time you tighten it over there, it's ruined the first time. I know that for a fact. So now we'll go off to these gauges. This is for the new RF. And this will be a kind of long video because you know no editing is being done. And I will put down the phone so I could use